Everyone, roll call, please.
Mr. Shadid?
Here.
Ms. Hutchinson? Mr. Mehta?
Here.
Mr. Davis? Mr. Socio? Ms. Guadagnino?
Here.
Mayor Womack?
Here, sunshine notice, please.
Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by publication in the Home News and Star Ledger on February 4th, 2025, indicating that the North Brunswick Township Council hold regular meetings on the first and third Monday of each month at 7 p.m. at 710 Herman Road, North Brunswick, and agenda meetings on the second and fourth Monday of the month at the same place at 7 p.m. In the event a regular meeting falls on a legal holiday, the meeting shall be held on Tuesday night after said holiday at the same place and hour.
Thank you. Councilman Shadid, will you lead us in the pledge to the flag tonight?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Gallimore, how are you tonight? You sound like you got a cold, though. You stocked up.
I have the flu.
Whoa.
No, I'm good. I'm good now, Mayor Mike.
Hey,
No.
no, really.
Okay, let me give you some space.
Anybody have questions on the bill list tonight? Anything particular?
I have a couple.
Go right ahead. President.
Just as a percentage, I was looking at the overtime. What's the standard overtime? So the one I noticed was dispatchers, that their overtime is 15% of their payroll. Is that normal? I guess that's a question for Joe, but he's not here.
Honestly, I don't know if that is normal. That's something I could look into for you and
Okay.
get back to you to give you an idea.
I
about
just
that.
thought that was a little high.
We've had issues with dispatchers and overtime for several years now. It's a good question. As soon as the police chief gets here, he may be able to address it
Right.
better.
Yeah, I
Is
just
it-
didn't know what a standard percentage was to know.
It's that line between where, when we're a little short-staffed, having a police officer sit in as a dispatcher or paying the dispatchers overtime. I don't know which one, like you say, that tipping point at which it's more advantageous to do one than the other. We'll ask the chief when he gets here.
My next question, I guess, is more for Justine. And I, in the contracts that we've done over the years, I thought we took the clothing allowance and rolled it into salaries. Or did we not do that?
No, we still.
For some of them.
For some of
For some of them, not all of them.
Okay, because I noticed a whole bunch of clothing allowances, and then I was thinking to myself, I thought we got rid of that.
Yeah.
But not
For
everyone.
some of the contracts. I believe that you're referring though to the police, or is that?
No.
Which one?
Clothing allowances on this one
We
were
have it.
sanitation, park, street, roads,
AFSMI
sewer,
still have closing allowance
Blue collar.
and the blue collar.
Yeah, there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different
Yeah.
ones. Okay.
Yeah.
And Luann's not here, so.
It is something we can look at when we're negotiating. We're still, a couple of them, we still have negotiations
Yeah.
open with.
I know blue collar is up for
Okay.
negotiation.
Thank you.
Is that it? That's
Me,
it?
yes.
Evening, Ms. Hutchinson. How are you tonight?
Hello, how are you? Sorry for the delay.
The next three items are our quarterly reports, and these reports are for the second quarter of the fiscal year 2025. The first one is our revenues. Overall, revenues do look good. We're at approximately 80% of revenue realized to date. Most of the ones that are below 50% will probably realized in this next 2 quarters. Any question on the revenues? The next one is our salaries and wages. Again, overall, we're at 48%, which is good. For the next quarter, we'll be doing projections to see if there are any budget line that needs transfers. Any questions on this?
Wait, hang on. So we're halfway, this is a report that's halfway through the year,
Yes,
correct? So most of the things should be roughly around 50%,
right,
which they mostly seem to be. Okay, sorry,
all right.
just was slow opening the document.
So the next one is for other expenses. I've just highlighted some of the budget lines that we have over that 50% expended mark. Some of these line items have funds that were paid as well as that we're holding because we have contracts for work that has not been done or services that has not yet been provided. But those funds have to be encumbered once we have, I guess, the contracts that needs to be, I guess, paid for throughout the end of the fiscal year. As well as there are line items where expenditures have been spent, and most of it have been spent in the first half of the year. So for those line items, I will be going through them, working with department heads to determine if transfers will be required, as we're allowed to do transfers the last 2 months of the fiscal year.
Okay, so explain that again, the ones that are super high?
Let me give you an,
So like take, I don't know, either recycling or.
so recycling, we have contracts. So we hold the funds for the entire amount of the contracts. And we pay them as we get the invoices throughout the year.
So why does that make it
So
high?
why is it high? Yeah.
It's high because we paid and we're holding the funds.
Holding.
The funds are held.
Yeah, they're reserved, they're already accounted
Yes.
for as spent. For
It's ju-
purposes of this, they're already
Oh, I see.
paid or charged.
So how government works, we have to hold, those funds are restricted until we get those invoices.
Okay.
For them to be paid.
All right, okay.
All right. Any more questions?
Any other questions, Ms. Gallimore?
Nope. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Carol. Mr. Ritz, I know there's members of our Environmental Commission that are here tonight that would, so before we go any further, why don't we go ahead and invite them to speak with us?
Sure. This is item 1 under my name this evening. Jonathan Flanders, the chairman of our Environmental Commission, is with us, and Siobhan, another member, and I'll let Jonathan introduce everybody. And they're here in support of a climate fund resolution that's been introduced by the State Senate and Assembly. One of the co-sponsors of the resolution is actually Senator Smith from our district. So why don't you come up, Jonathan, and
We have a handout here. I don't know if you have a copy.
they have a, you can hand it out, but they also have a copy in there.
You can pass it around if you don't want it, pass it back.
Bring it back, yeah. So, good evening. I'm Siobhan Gibbons, and I am a member of the North Brunswick Environment Commission. And so thank you for giving me the time to talk about this important issue, the Climate Superfund Bill, which is being proposed in Trenton. And as Mike just said, it was introduced by Senator McKeon, I'm told it's pronounced, and our own Senator Bob Smith. New Jersey has experienced multiple deaths and billions of dollars in losses from storms linked to global warming and climate change. Hurricane Sandy cost an estimated $29 billion and 38 people died. Hurricane Ida cost about $2 billion and 30 people died. Now, my understanding is that we don't yet know the cost of the damage done to this building and the surrounding buildings in this neighborhood. So even though we don't know the cost, we do know who's going to pay for it. And that's, of course, us, taxpayers, as federal, state, and local taxes. We're the ones that's going to be paying for it. The Climate Superfund Bill wants to change that. And they want to make those who caused the damage to pay at least some of the costs of that damage. Modeled after similar legislation that has already passed in New York and Vermont, the bill applies the logic of the original 1980 Superfund Act. In that 1980 Act required polluters to pay to clean up the contamination they caused to land and water. Similarly, the Climate Superfund Bill makes the fossil fuel companies that have emitted 1 billion tons or more of greenhouse gases since 1994 to pay for the damage caused by those emissions. Under this Act, municipalities will be able to recover costs for climate change adaptation projects and the preparation for and recovery from extreme weather events. So, for example, like flood protection projects, home buyouts, upgrades to stormwater drainage systems, the costs of repairing, upgrading critical infrastructure such as roads and bridges and water treatment plants, and many other such projects that are required for both preparation for the damage that's going to come and to repair the damage that has already happened. If this legislation had existed before Ida, North Brunswick would have benefited from it, and North Brunswick taxpayers would not have to be footing the whole bill for the current damage. The bill passed the New Jersey Senate Environment and Energy Committee on December 12th, 2024, so it's out of the Senate Energy and Environment Committee, and it already has 24 co-sponsors in the Senate and the Assembly. So I'd like to request that the North Brunswick Environment Commission would like to request that the North Brunswick Town Council pass a resolution in support of the Climate Superfund Act in order to offset the financial burdens of global warming and climate change on North Brunswick and on the whole state of New Jersey. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
I'm just going to add, I got the short part of this, why pass a resolution. A couple of towns have done it so far, Jersey City, Hoboken, Parsippany, and Teaneck, and a number of others are considering it right now. And I guess with a lot of legislation, it gains momentum by towns getting on board. They see that and they'll look at it and say, hey, we should push this legislation through. So that's why I think it's important that North Brunswick pass a resolution.
Wonderful. Thank you. We really appreciate the work you all do on the commission, and your guidance here is appreciated. I think we'll probably invite Senator Smith to see if he wants to speak with us about it. And after that, we'll either take some action or not, but we'll keep you apprised of exactly what we do, okay?
Okay, all right, appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now, who was it that we had a question for that wasn't here earlier? Chief Battaglia. Chief Battaglia. Chief, we had a question about overtime for dispatchers. Council President was looking at the bill list.
Sorry,
Wait,
I
no,
didn't-
you go right ahead.
I was just wondering if it was a normal percentage, if that's their normal percentage. I understand the dispatchers have overtime.
Well, how are you?
But I just didn't know what the average percentage is that they have overtime every.
I'll have to look into what you're talking about. I don't know. I just kind of got blindsided when I walked in here, and you asked me about overtime for dispatchers. So
I was just looking at the bill list and was looking at the different departments and the percentage of their overtime. And I understand the situation with the dispatchers. I'm aware of that. So I just didn't know if that was normal or if that was high or if that was low. It was just
I can't answer that off the cuff, but
it was about 15%.
there's 9 dispatchers to make 9 spots. So every time a dispatcher takes off, it creates overtime.
Right.
So that's usually the norm. But as far as the percentage, I'll have to look at it. Okay. And get back to you.
No problem.
Okay? That's it? I'm done?
Actually, I believe for Ms. Benson, she had just texted, she's not here, but had provided an update under her name and is available if anybody has any questions. But these 4 items were just updates with some of the programming.
Cabell, I know you have the flu still, sort of. And apparently you've got a St. Patrick's Day party you got to get to. If you, oh, Eagles. Oh, I shouldn't have raised that. But if you need to get out of here, you can go ahead and go. I don't, does anybody else need anything with Gallimore tonight? You're free to go, Cabell. And I'm sorry, I interrupted somebody who.
Yeah, none of the stuff has any backup, so there's nothing to look at to ask questions at, so.
All right, so the first item I have is authorizing the sale of the abandoned vehicles. That comes up every couple of months, where the vehicles are in the township impounds, the vendors that tow for the town. They get vehicles that are wrecks or whatever, and then people don't come and pick them up. And then after a certain amount of time, they get the titles, and then we auction them off.
Do you contact the owners, or?
Yes, there's a whole process that you have to go through before you could get it. You have to send them, you have to notify them like 3 times. You have to send certified mail. And then sometimes the owners just come in, they don't want the car, it's not worth it. So they just go there, they sign over the title to the tow company, and then
And
we
then
auction
who
them off.
sells the vehicles? Just,
We do.
We do.
we physically sell them?
We have an auction. I think it's an online auction, right?
Okay.
And then the highest bidder.
Oh, okay. Just wondering. Okay.
And then the second one, I guess the second one is the PBA. So there's off-duty rates that are set by the town and the PBA. They negotiate it, and then it's put into a resolution and pass. So every so many years, they come for an increase or any changes, language changes in that contract for the off-duty vendors. So the BA and I and the PBA have negotiated a new contract, but there is one line in there that has to be changed. It's down on the bottom where it says,
Again, we'll email you and circulate. This is just clarifying, and he just wants to add a little clarification that if they cancel a job less than 24 hours in advance, so I believe you met with the PBA, we discussed this with the mayor, we're just going to make a modification and recirculate it. The last time this rate change was adjusted was 2019, so it's been several years, but we'll also recirculate the prior, just so you have the current rates, which were in 2019 is the last time. But to his point, we probably should be revisiting this more frequently, every year or two. But this was, 2019 was the last update to this.
And what was the change that needs to be made?
so the change in there was just, there was miscommunication. So what happens is if you cancel, if a vendor calls and says, I need a guy for 8 o'clock in the morning, and then it's less than 24 hours, they call up and they say, you know what, we don't need you. They automatically get 4 hours for the job. But what was happening is these vendors were calling the guys telling you, we need you for 8 hours. So these guys were changing their schedules for the 8 hours, and then they were getting there and they were like, well, we only need you for 2. So we said, if they do that, if you get to the job, then they owe you that 8 hours of pay. So that's on them for their poor scheduling or whatever they're doing, because
8
it's
hours,
not fair.
4 hours.
8 hours, it would be the entire
The entire
shift. If the officer gets there, it's the, whatever the hours are. If it's 24 hours, less than 24 hours, then it's 4 hours. If it's more than 24 hours, it's nothing.
Just so everyone or anybody watching understands, this is not money the township pays directly to the police officers. These are the police officers you see when PSE&G or construction people are working, sitting there. They're off duty, they're paid by the contractor. We pay it indirectly because taxpayers pay for a lot of these road improvements, and this is a cost that's added into the bid that goes into the work that would be done. But I think our important considerations are making sure the officers are appropriately compensated, that they're willing to do the jobs, that we pay enough that they're willing to do the jobs, and that the contractors are treated fairly.
So is it just if they cancel within 24 hours, they get a mandatory 4 hours?
Right. Less than 24 hours.
Less than 24?
So more than 24 hours, it's nothing, the job's just canceled, that's it. If it's less than 24 hours, so if they call 12 hours before and they say, we're not going to be able to make it out there, the officer gets 4 hours. If the officer arrives on the job that morning and the contractor says, you know what, I only need you for 3 hours, then he gets the whole 8, the officer would get the whole 8 hours pay.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. If they were supposed to do 8 hours and then they cancel less than 24 hours, it's automatic they get a minimum of 4 hours. But if they go to the job and they're supposed to be there for 8 hours and they're there and the contractor changes and says, okay, we only need you for 3, they're going to get
8.
8. 8 hours.
Yeah.
Okay.
So normally, it doesn't normally happen, but the problem is that we had one contractor that was consistently doing that.
Yeah.
So he was, I guess, hedging his bets that he was gonna get done early, but he just said 8 hours just in case, and then if the guy was there for only 3 or 4 hours, then he wouldn't have to pay that 8.
Yeah.
So this eliminates that, and it really was just 1 or 2 contractors that were doing that. PSE&G doesn't do that, Verizon doesn't do that, Lucas Brothers doesn't do that. So it was only a couple of them, but so we just want to put that in there to protect the officers.
And are the rates a percentage increase, or is it just a dollar amount?
They were dollar amounts. We can get you the percentages. It's it's a sliding range. And this also has a range within each subject, not necessarily what they're going to bill, but to provide them a range for movement.
So there's all different rates for night jobs, day jobs, carnivals, road jobs, warehouse jobs. So there's a middle, holidays if it happens on a holiday. So there's a bunch of different rates in there. Okay. And then, I didn't get a chance to discuss this with you, but were we going to change that vendor?
It looks like you're still under review. We had received bids for 3 Ford Explorers. These were the non-pursuit. These are detective vehicles. And I think there was some back and forth. They had done a couple requests for clarification between the lowest bidder and the second lowest bidder, as well as I believe we looked at state contract today and whether or not that would be more advantageous. So it sounds like you might be going in that direction.
Yeah, because there's one vendor who said he had the vehicles. Turns out he doesn't have the vehicles. So then we might have to move to a different vendor who actually has them on the ground.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So again, we'll get clarification on that. He bid it as though he had the vehicles. On Friday, we did a request for clarification, asking for the VIN number just for confirmation, and then it sounded like he didn't have the vehicles. So we're just looking at,
Different options.
So if he doesn't tell us within 24 hours in advance, then he has to give it to us for free.
We get to pick the vehicle.
So this resolution is,
Pulled?
no, I'm just saying, or change.
Yeah.
based on whether you're going to the other bidder or state
Yes.
contract.
Yes.
But it'll be one of them.
It'll be one of them, yes. Most likely not this guy because he doesn't have the vehicles.
Could he just substitute different ones?
No.
Or is that not allowed?
No, it doesn't work that way.
Well, there's only very specific vehicles we want, right? I mean,
Yes.
we're very specific in what we're.
Yeah, we try to keep our fleets. Also, you got to think about the maintenance. So we don't want vehicle maintenance to have 22 different kinds of vehicles that they're maintaining. So we try to keep our fleets between the Tahoes and the Ford Explorers for detectives and stuff like that. So we don't want to have and then all different kinds of cars unless we go electric.
I was going to say. Steve's looking at
Ralph's
you.
not here.
Thank you, Chief. Now, did you cover Ms.
Yes.
Benson when I was distracted? Thank you. Mr. Boyd, you may have a busy week this week.
Yes. Yes, sir. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I have 4 items for your consideration this evening. The first item is authorizing an amendment to 2025 PSA with T&M Associates for services related to the Resiliency Center, MEP/FP Design through Construction Administration.
So this was a big increase.
Excuse me?
It was a big increase, right?
What changed?
This
10,000 to 112,000.
What changed to make us
Well,
have
this
an
is,
amendment?
well, it's a new year, we're changing the year. The last amendment was for 2024. This one is for 2025.
So-
And this encompasses site work, design work, and flow of the project.
So 2024 only went to the end of 2024? It didn't include
No.
into 2025?
Yeah, so separately, so there's a new contract year, but regarding these 2 proposals, if you recall, probably a few months back, in '24, we had 2 authorizations. They came together. One was for USA Architects, and that was for not to exceed 25,000 for his work for doing the
I remember that.
renderings, preliminary work, just reviewing. And then there was a $10,000, just again, preliminary conceptual discussions with the engineer for the kitchen, the electrical, the plumbing. So those, they've done that exercise. This is now to really engage them to finalize, and this was the discussion about finalizing and getting this out to bid. And so there's two resolutions. One would be, and really the lift of this is the engineer. This is for him to do all the final, taking into account the electrical loads, everything that, the plumbing that has to come into the first floor. It's a slab right now. All of that work is on this piece of the contract. And then separately, there's a proposal on for consideration on the architectural side, which is,
So when does the council get to give their input on all of that?
again,
'Cause in the fall, we talked about how we were going to be involved in the planning process, and we weren't, and now we're going to the second part, and we're still not involved.
so again, as we shared the conceptual, what they had, the envelope of the building isn't changing.
But did everyone get that? Because I
We
didn't see it go
we
out
did
to everyone.
circulate
I
an
got it.
email.
I don't think anyone else got it.
Okay, I don't know, have you shared that with everybody, or?
Going to send it out with.
Do you want me to, yeah, I can share it. Again, I think we've looked at the envelope of it. There's a meeting tomorrow. I don't know if we'd connected on that. But again, they have time until March to finalize this, so now would be the time to that input, select everything, make any of it.
Council President was on that email
Yeah,
for
Yes,
that.
but,
yeah,
right,
No,
but I
for
was
the
told
email
that
for the
everyone
meeting, for
was.
the meeting.
yeah. Right.
Okay.
But again, there's still time.
When
This
was that,
is.
today?
No, you got that last week.
No. So this is just, again, the engagement to keep them going. It would be considered for next Monday. There would then be a series of meetings. I know there's one tomorrow, but I'm saying there's a series of meetings in February with the council to finalize those drawings. They're then looking to get it out to bid in March to just keep the timeline going so that we're receiving the bids by April, May, starting the work by June. Just to, that first, through the double doors, just to get the
But
resiliency.
I
in it.
thought that we would have, when they had the design, submit it so that we can look at it, add comments, or what have you, and then we go, and then give that back so that they can either incorporate or, and then from there, so it seems like we've just kind of over skimmed that, and then now we're going into the next phase with MEP.
Correct.
And then, well, we haven't even got a chance to look at the actual design and what they're proposing and everything. We just saw a sort of schematic drawing. That was it.
Yeah.
Well,
So,
I believe part of that email that went out was to look at the design.
and when did that go out?
That's
Right.
going to be for tomorrow.
Yeah, so no, there's a meeting
It's,
with the,
okay.
I had this conversation with Justine and Joe a couple weeks ago, and it,
Me too, yeah.
Yeah, I just.
So you think,
we-
so the
we
bottom
haven't
line,
been- I mean.
they're ahead
they
of-
said it was supposed to be done something, nothing was
They got-
done, and then
they've
now
gotten
they
ahead
just
of us,
kind of like.
right. I
went
mean,
ahead. Yeah,
the plans have gotten ahead of the council, right? And the council would like to see where we are before we vote and say, yeah, let's go with this, right?
yeah, we just
I mean,
want to.
that's the bottom line, right?
Yeah, I guess that's it, I think.
So let's do that. Let's make that happen. Whatever, work at it with the council president, and whatever is the best way, whether we do a special meeting or get some good graphics on a Zoom call or something, we'll make that happen. I know everybody feels that we've got to move as fast as we can, but, at the same time, let's make sure everybody's on board with the decisions.
Any other
But-
questions on that one?
We'll all expect to disagree, but continue
No,
moving
no,
forward.
I'm
even
not
if-
disagreeing, I just.
No, but I'm saying
Like to
that.
just
when we-
see what we're
Right.
looking at and just, so that we don't fall into a hole that, they just go ahead and do everything and then we're like, well, why did you do this?
Makes perfect sense.
We're good on one?
I don't seem to have an email about a meeting tomorrow.
The second item,
I guess it's the same.
the second item is authorizing an amendment to the 2025 PSA with USA Architects for services related to the Resiliency Center design through construction administration. This is continued work towards the Resiliency Center and continuing with our conversation on one. You know, obviously, we'll get over the renderings and share that with the governing body.
And then why don't we see if we can get Pete on a conference call, or
Yeah.
we'll notice a special time for everybody to be able to sit down.
Wasn't he
a little
part of
bit.
that meeting tomorrow?
Yeah, so again, I think there's maybe just a missing link here, so that this authorization was them to continue to proceed. That said, following our discussion, the envelope isn't changing. This was, as he had offered, Pete had said if we wanted to set up a Zoom towards the end of February, he'd be available to meet with anybody, and he'd be available on a Zoom if you wanted any sessions to finalize and hear from everybody and have input. So that was scheduled for the 3rd to 4th week of February. This was just the authorization to keep going, not that anything was finalized. So I just want to make sure that nobody's misunderstanding that.
Keep going means the money's there for him to keep going after we decide what we're going to do. Not that he's going to keep going and have things.
Well, if
The
it's.
the council just doesn't want to be presented with a take it or leave it.
Well, construction
situation.
administration is during construction, the CA.
Correct.
Yeah.
This is the full authorization. It's a not to exceed.
So this is from now until the completion of the project, because I see
Correct.
CA in there, which is
Correct.
construction
They-
administration.
They did put in there through construction administration as a not to exceed. So this is for them to work on final design, go out to bid, receive bids through construction administration. So they really encompass the whole,
And then they won't be coming back asking for, okay, so this is the next phase, and
no, this was that's why they
This is
really, they
everything.
broke
So
up everything
first was
into.
just the design, the preliminary design and
Correct.
sketches.
Correct.
And then from there, move to the next phase, which is this, which is more developing of the,
This is really to, again, the meetings were
CDs,
supposed to be towards the end of
MEPs.
February about finalizing the drawings, the renderings, the type of kitchen equipment. There's a,
that's construction
that,
documents. Are they going to go into CDs as well, too?
this was to, again, this was literally from the preliminary, this goes right into finalizing all of the renderings, meeting with everybody, finalizing it, getting it out to bid by March, receiving the bids, them going through the entire,
So they're going to put the whole package together. So
they're
gonna
putting the
put
entire packet together.
the whole construction document bid set together,
Yeah.
then they're going to send it out for bidding. And
Correct.
then, once you establish a contractor who's going to actually carry out the work, then they're going to be the construction administrator overseeing all of that work to make sure that it's complete and built according to the drawings.
Correct. And you'll see it on both of their proposals, but the lion's share of it, because of the MEP involved, is Pete and Jim connected. It's really on the schedule values. A lot of that's falling on the engineer to sign off on, so he's doing a lion's share of the construction admin.
Okay. All right. As long as it's encompassed everything, and that they
Yes.
don't come, each phase keep coming
This
back.
doesn't have the pavilion across the street. Again,
No,
this is really just
the
strictly the
resilience, yeah.
resiliency
Yeah,
section.
so,
What's the schedule to keep the council apprised right now?
We had this authorization for this meeting. We had a meeting here tomorrow on site, and then we were looking,
Who's in that meeting?
that was, again, I can resend the email. I believe it was
I think it was.
Tony was
Yeah, it
invited,
was Tony and
and
Council
Amanda.
President.
When was that sent? I couldn't find
Last
it. Or who
week?
I
sent
think it was-
maybe?
Let me see.
Thursday.
It wasn't from you?
Yeah,
No,
no, I sent it last Thursday.
I think.
Yeah,
it
you
might-
got it. Okay,
Amanda, I
so-
think it might have went to your,
personal.
not your township email, your personal email,
Personal.
if I remember correctly, seeing that on there.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. So, again, and so that was really just, again, that was the next in-person meeting, and then we
Are
had,
you available, Council President?
Oh, no, tomorrow, I wish.
No,
Oh,
the new
all right.
calendar.
Sorry. I'm getting ahead of myself.
I still can't, I'm now searching for Justine's name in my regular email, and I'm not finding this specific.
So do you want
I don't know when it is to say whether I can go or not.
to, what time is it at?
1 o'clock.
1 o'clock.
Yeah, I should be able to go, yes.
Tomorrow, 1 o'clock here, right?
Yes. And again,
To have it.
following that, he's available with the rest of the council via Zoom, again, for everybody's input the following week, to have a final, like, input discussion. Tomorrow, though, just to walk it and see it and visualize it, that was that meeting.
Okay, good. So let's sit tight make sure we get I guess we need another one for a quorum?
I didn't want to say anything.
No.
Sorry.
And your next item, sir?
So item 3 is authorizing an advertisement of receipt of bids under the Department of Public Works bid 25003 for the fuel pump station. Any questions on that?
I've told Justine and Steve, that fuel pump station is so expensive.
I haven't.
They make a real good case that we really need it, but I do urge everybody to follow this closely because it's so expensive.
It's coming, you know,
we have that?
it's going to be an environmental issue at some point with these underground storage tanks. And that's the driving force behind it, you know, getting those tanks elevated and to a different location.
Do we get to see the bids? The bids, do we get to see the bids? No?
The bids for that?
You could, I mean, it's a public opening for,
Oh, okay. Yeah, just to see what the
Yeah, we didn't,
costs
yeah, we haven't
coming
got
in
it.
at.
It's just the advertising.
Okay,
but when we open them, there'll be,
The hard,
okay.
well, you've seen the hard costs on that, correct?
No, I was looking through my email, I didn't see it, but I'll go through the list.
I think you
I'm
may
sure it's in there.
This is, we have this.
She's looking at it now.
Yeah.
Okay, I see it. I'm just going to go through it. Thank you.
Did you say yikes?
So there was we had followed up after that discussion. We have the capital funding if we utilize any of the building's capital prior ordinances. We can put that together and aggregate that and get this out to bid. But we just want to make sure everybody, as the mayor's saying, there's just some pause on that because that really will limit our capital funding for anything related to buildings until we see our new capital season. By October, our new ordinance wouldn't be into effect. So, but I understand, again, it's something that has been brought to the council for the past 5 years, the need for it. We've tried to get grant funding. We just haven't been successful with it.
No.
Steve, what's the
No,
danger
not
if we
with-
don't do?
Not with grant funding. We tried that, and it's more of an iBank.
Yeah.
Is the direction that we'd probably have to go. Say again.
What's the danger if we postpone?
Well, you're going to get into, you know, if anything starts leaching into the grounds, then it could become costly, very costly. So, you know, we don't have anything that we know of right now that's leaking. You know, we do have a company that we contract that does, you know, a lot of our testing and things like that for our USTs, not only for our fuel farm, but some of our stations still have USTs as well. So, you know, they're a reputable company, and they've been on board from day one with, you know, trying to get this process going, to get this fuel farm.
But it's not going to get into the general drinking water, is it?
No. No.
If it leaks?
No, it's, where we're located on the property at DPW, there's no water right there, it's out front.
Okay.
It's just the soil.
Yeah.
Concern with the soil contamination.
And Mayor, what are your thoughts on this?
I want to be responsible. I know we always try to be responsible. And it is something that has to be done. It's just, it just scares me with all that we've we're looking at with the municipal building, what we've had to invest in, some things we're going to talk about a little later. It's just a lot of money, and
Can we
Mr.
say in public what the amount is?
sure.
Yeah, did you see it?
1.6.
Yeah.
So, a little history behind this. So I believe it was about 5 years ago when Director Chazar first brought this on. I'll wait till they're-
The main cost.
The
So,
main-
so it was close to $1 million, about five, and that was for the removal as well as to remove not just install new ones, but also to remove and dispose of and close the existing. I
Correct.
think the price has now gone up. There's also with the
Nearly
stormwater
doubled,
regs,
And
the
this doesn't include
DEP.
the removal, right?
It
That's
does
what you're-
not include the
So
removal.
The quote used to be around $1 million for this and the removal, and this is just this.
This is
And it's already
just.
at 1.6.
So CME, they've gone out, they've surveyed the site. Really, this is construction within the vicinity, but just the cost for construction of the new separate phase, we're going to be coming to you for capital funding to then remove and abandon the existing ones as
This
a,
is just putting in new.
yeah, and.
Correct.
Yeah.
What are the sizes of the tanks? 550, 1,000?
Currently, we have 4,000, 10,000, and 10,000. We're gonna go to above ground, all at 10,000.
3?
3 tanks, yes. 1 for diesel and 2 for gasoline.
So the main lump sum of this is the fuel storage facility. Is that the actual tanks?
That's everything.
That's 1.3.
That's the pumps, that's the
The canopy, the
canopy.
software.
They have a specific name. It's not canopy, it's,
Yeah, the
whatever.
hardware, the software.
That's everything. That's going to be electrical. We're looking at a system, because to get in after hours, you have to have a separate system outside of the fencing, because that all has to be locked up. And, that encompasses everything, soup to nuts for
And
that.
and how long will this last? Like, when would be projected that you would have to redo this? 20 years, 30 years, 50 years?
So we're 34 years now with the old system. So beyond the age of the pumps, beyond the age of the tanks, we have software inside of our DPW garage that we program the fuel keys, and that system is so antiquated, we are having trouble locating computer parts. It's an old Phoenix computer. You guys should all be familiar with that. It's very hard to find parts for that, and we were able to locate one that was needed to extract any of our usage, and we were able to find that on eBay about a year ago. So it is getting to the point where we need to update, everything.
So the tanks that we have now existing, are they metal, plastic?
I believe they are double-walled plastic.
Double wall.
They are plastic?
I believe so.
Really?
Double wall, yeah.
And so the new system, is that going to be above ground?
Yes.
Okay.
All the tanks will be above ground. I passed around some renderings probably about 2 months ago. I don't know if you guys all
Can't
got to
remember.
look at them, but I did
Is it
pass them.
Yeah.
the stain, is it like galvanized, like shiny stain, it looks like chrome on the outside? Is
The
that-
new ones?
The new ones?
No, I believe they would be painted. I don't think they would be like a stainless look to them.
But what's the material?
That, I'm not 100% sure, but I would believe they would, well, they're definitely double-walled. They have to be double-walled. But they could be fiberglass, they could be metal.
What's the life expectancy of those?
On those, I'm not really sure.
Justine and I talked about whether we could use a diesel distributor right there on Route 130. It would be more inconvenient, obviously, and present some problems with operations. To have our guys fill up there, because, I was thinking for this kind of money, it would take a long time. We could do it for a while before it really starts
I don't know if we,
catching up with this, but problem for that is that we can't get the fuel, no matter what we buy the fuel from a private entity like that, they're not, at least in the current market, going to be able to match what we get through the state co-op buying that we get the fuel through right now.
So in the long term, it does make more sense financially to do it,
The
and
long term
environmentally.
does.
Well, I mean, I think with the way the pricing has changed over the last 3 years alone, I don't see it getting
Any
cheaper.
Are we going to have diesel trucks 20 years from now?
That's a very good question.
Very
We're-
good.
we're-
Is this the clean diesel that we did the thing on?
Correct. So, you know, a lot of our fire vehicles, a lot of our garbage trucks, you know, they're all diesel. And I don't see that, unless we go to electric, I don't see us going to gasoline for those bigger vehicles.
And is the clean diesel still comparably priced? I know when we did the thing, it was about the same. Is it still
Yeah.
the same? Didn't change?
I just,
Yeah, and knock on wood, we've had, you know, good results. We've only had to change, one truck, we had to change out the filters, but that was, I think that was in the transition phase
So
when we changed over.
we can further this, I mean, I didn't mean to belabor everything, but
yeah,
we can go ahead and
I'll ask
authorize
my
the
question
bids and look
afterwards.
when they
Yeah, I'll ask you a question after.
If we go out to bid, that doesn't mean we have to do it, correct?
No, we can reject the bids if they're too
And
high.
just
We
say, no,
can't
we don't want to
afford
do
it yet.
projects anymore. So there's no harm in going out to bid.
Okay, my final.
We might
item-
have to explain to the Environmental Commission what we're doing, but
My final item is, excuse me, authorizing an agreement with Applied Landscape Technologies for the replacement of Sabella Park turf field. Any questions on that?
Is this the price with all the lines, the stripings, and the changes to the graphic?
So did you see the email I sent you this afternoon?
No,
Yeah.
I haven't, I've been at swim meets, I haven't been.
Yeah, I saw it. I went through it. I was just
That's,
wondering why,
that's
why
the,
we're supposed to
that's the
get-
rendering and also the pricing of the field.
what's the pivot, what's it called? Pivot?
Pivot, Tenkati.
The
So
technology.
Why are we, because that's a
So,
big expense that I saw that's on top of the.
so it's
the other-
a little more expensive than what we had originally put down 15, 16 years ago.
Yeah.
So this one doesn't have it, it's kind of maintenance-free, not 100% maintenance-free, but there is some field maintenance that you may have to handle, which we would do most of it in-house, like whether you're blowing leaves off or, you know, cleaning garbage off the field. It doesn't have that carcinogen-laced fill, those black rubber pellets.
Oh, okay.
So it doesn't have any of that. It has a foam padding system
Yeah, I saw that.
underneath.
safety.
I actually-
and fewer environmental
Yeah.
and not occupational, but.
Injuries, I think.
Doctors are less concerned about kids playing on, from breathing and everything else perspective.
This also has a 12-year
Yeah, I saw that.
warranty,
Warranty.
and the padding underneath the turf has a 25-year warranty.
Okay.
The cheap fix here still could be an option, would be just patching the part of the field where the damage occurred and everything. It certainly leaves a lot more issues. In the short term, it's cheaper.
So how does it work when it like rains, when you get like massive downpours?
There's drainage
Is-
built in, so
is-
it'll go through the fibers.
Okay.
And once it goes through the fibers, the padding that's under there, there's a porthole that they have in there, and that's the drain, and that's.
Connected to something
Every
else,
so
which-
often, they have that padding with the hole in it, so it drains properly.
Okay.
Almost like if you had stone, you have a drainage, same concept.
Okay.
And that padding has a 25-year warranty, which I think is kind of unheard of for these fields.
It's good.
Yeah. Okay.
That was, I think, also for that, the G-max of what you need for the rating in order to play on it, to have the cushioning, which I think the current field was at the end of life.
Yeah, 15-year life expectancy usually on those fields, which were, I believe, that was 08 or 09?
08.
So we're looking at, probably, we probably got more than a year or two more than what was expected of it. And that, that's a testament to our Parks Department and getting their, getting that deep scarification every year and getting that GMAX passed every year. Because if you don't pass that test, for liability reasons, you cannot play in those fields.
Oh, wow.
It's, we have to bear in mind, of course, that putting money here, less money in other parks
Yeah.
and recreation areas in town, but
Do
this
we
is
charge for
important.
use for those fields, or, we could
Oh,
charge?
out-of-town groups that come in would be paying a fee for using the fields, but
Okay.
the important thing about Sabella is it's the home of our football program, or what is, essentially the township for the North Brunswick, the Pop Warner football program that's run out of the Adams AC. And it does address a population of the kids who play football seem to come from different areas, backgrounds, and a lot that will play soccer and baseball. So it is important, I think, that we maintain that there's that good, that we show the respect for everybody, and that's got a good playing field, because otherwise they're going to wind up looking like Kansas City Chiefs.
So in those renderings, you will see the different lines that are painted in there. There's red, there's blue, there's white, and I believe yellow. I think yellow was in there as well. So that encompasses boys lacrosse, girls lacrosse, soccer, and football.
Okay.
Hey, Steve, talking about colors, I think everybody appreciates, tell us a little bit about the lights out front on this building, because I thought that was a good thing you were able to bring in for that.
So, still a work in progress, but we're able to change the colors of those lights out front on the three peaks to different holidays, different events. So, Council President, I don't know if she saw me, I was changing them to red for Valentine's for all the Valentine's folks out there. So, but if we get, if anybody has something that they want the building to represent, obviously, we can change
Christmas, we had
those colors.
red and green.
Yep.
Then Hanukkah, blue
Blue,
and white.
yep, blue and white, yep. So,
So it's good.
all right. Any other questions?
Thank you, Director.
Thank you.
Mr. Ritz, the remainder of your items?
We have a bond reduction and a bond release. Actually, I'm just noticing for the clerk, the public hearing is transposed. So the public hearing is for the PSE&G bond release, not for the K-Land reduction, okay? So the first is a bond reduction for K-Land. This is the 4-home subdivision that Kaplan is building on Cousins Lane, actually right near Sabella Park. So this is simply a bond reduction. And then the second item, which does require a public hearing, is a bond release for PSE&G. This signals the completion of our new substation on 14th Street. This is off Joyce Kilmer Avenue behind CVS and Burger King, where we had a quasi-abandoned industrial site that PSE&G purchased and cleaned up and built a new substation. Anybody have any questions on those two items? Lastly, this evening, this is one of the first steps in proceeding. You'll recall throughout the fall and winter, right into December, we formally designated the former Boy Scout property, also known as the Fidelity Plaza property, as an area in need of redevelopment. And the state DCA conferred with your work and the work of the planning board in the fall to give it that designation. So the next step is to enter into an agreement with the property owner. And in this instance, the governing body will be acting as managing the redevelopment of this property. The very first item that's on tonight is to authorize what's called an interim cost agreement, which will allow us to have the property owner create an escrow, and all of our cost for our redevelopment consultant and our attorney will be billed directly against an escrow account by the property owner, so that as we go through this process, the township is not bearing any cost or expense. So this is the very first step. Beyond this, we've talked with the mayor. I think we'll be coming back to the governing body in closed session at some point because this is considered a confidential negotiation. And we'll be back to talk about this in more detail. But this is the first step to move forward with the property owner and begin negotiations on how this property might be developed and assure that they're covering 100% of all of our cost. Anybody have any questions?
It's all laid out by the law, right?
Yes, this is all, the redevelopment law is governed by state statute, and we're closely following those statutes.
Thank you, Mr. Ritz. Thank you. Ms. Progman?
Thank you, Mayor. The first item we have on for consideration, this is authorizing a pool credit for one of the utility accounts. The second authorization, this is making an amendment to the professional service agreement that we did in January with our tax appeal counsel. There was a change in the firm's acquisition. It was now moving over to Raynon Coughlin Mancello, effective February 1st, 2025, and so we're seeking to amend that contract in the firm's name. The third,
Any councilperson who has questions may want to check with Sapnor with Ron when you have a chance.
Okay.
Because our tax appeal council that was over in Somerset County, they've merged with their firm. So I want to make sure we're doing the right thing.
the third item, the third and fourth go together. This is regarding our network and upgrades as we're coming back into the building, and we're making some of the improvements to the network upgrades. The first one is authorizing upgrades, amending the contract with our current IT service provider, ITNS. This is authorizing, and it breaks out quotes for programming and installation of a new SAN system, some server consolidation, as well as domain merger. This is moving back in the day, the police environment, virtual environment, and the administration used to be on two separate environments. They're now allowed to be commingled into one, so this is to bring them together as the first step. Then we're going to be moving the servers together. Then we're going to be moving the domain names together. Ultimately, the next step is actually going to that Microsoft 365. Once the domain is done, all of the Outlook, all of the emails, everything will be switched over. So this is the first step in preparation for that.
And what's the timeline of when that will all take place when you switch over?
For the Microsoft 365 or this, I can give you a breakdown. I think we have a breakdown more detailed of the server migration. They have the phones. There's everything kind of outlined. This is just strictly just the server migration,
Okay.
consolidation of the domain and the SAN system in preparation for that next phase.
Okay.
The other resolution is just with Dell. The contract that we have with ITNS is a service contract for him to do the work. The next resolution is actually for the purchase of the equipment.
Yeah, that's what I was
So
gonna
this
ask.
is looking under, we go under either state contract or under co-ops. We purchase the equipment. He then, his contract is a service contract, so he does the work. This resolution is for the actual physical equipment.
So for the programs and such, is it under this contract or is it under a different?
The first one is under him to do the programming.
For doing the actual,
Yes.
carrying out the
The
work?
second one is utilizing state contract vendor for the acquisition of the equipment.
Oh, okay.
And again, there's going to be more to come. We're going to be, and again, it might be better, as you said, to just give you a bullet of some of the big ticket items. this building, because it wasn't occupied, there was routine IT stuff that wasn't done. The big switches, everything that has to be updated is all going to be forthcoming. We had put about 400,000 in IT capital when we met in July in the capital, kind of knowing we were going to be reoccupying the building. So we kind of have a game plan with some of the other equipment, as well as going to the big Microsoft 365 phone system, all of that.
Are you guys like cloud-based or?
Not right now. No, that's our next.
That's where it's going to,
That's where we're going.
that's where you're heading.
We did, to your point, we did move over, especially after COVID and then Ida. We have brought, almost as a resiliency effort, we did bring over our payroll, our timekeeping, all of that. When we procured that, we went straight to the cloud. We also now operate, I think as of last year, the SDL, the management tool that Community Development and Public Works uses, has now gone over to the cloud. And as of March, we brought last year in July, we brought our entire financial management system over into the cloud. So we have taken steps
Slowly.
on the various applications. This is the biggest one, is the Microsoft, all of our files. We also, a few months ago, we moved, Lisa, I think, is working on the Laserfiche. That was our most recent one. And so that, again, we're kind of making everything, getting it over to the cloud as we move along, so.
Okay.
Those, I think, were and the fifth item.
I wanted to address.
Yeah, that's a discussion.
So you recall, we've insured ourselves through the joint insurance funds for a long time because it was and has been more, it's been the only financially responsible way to do it, given the cost of insurance through regular carriers. So you recall, a couple years ago now, we're still fighting them, the Middlesex County JIF found themselves in a hole, and a JIF is a joint insurance fund where everybody shares the cost. So towns that had been members were proportionately sent a special assessment, and we were hit by the Middlesex Joint Insurance Fund, which we're fighting. How much? $500,000? Yeah, about $600,000 they wanted us to pay because of our agreement to be a part of that joint insurance fund. Well, we've received now from our most recent, not the current, but our most recent before this joint insurance fund, a letter that they're going to also seek an assessment, $800,000.
What?
So now we're more than $1 million that our insurance companies are seeking, not for any continuing or future insurance, but to cover their past debts. So I was already calling some of my
extra money
lawyer
than last
friends
before.
to make sure that we're going to vigorously challenge this, because
I thought we were teaming up like as a,
with the Middlesex County JIF, we
Yeah.
entered into a joint insurance with all the other towns, entities that were part of it. And we're not quite sure where that stands. The Middlesex County resources, as of January 1st, were put into another JIF. So what their current status is, we're not clear. What the status of their assessment is, we're not clear. The state has not taken a clear position. So it's wound up there in litigation. And I think this one's going to go exactly the same way.
okay.
And we were not, even though that's a big number, we were not a longtime big member of that. So there's going to be some places that are really going to be shocked by that. I'm shocked by it, but I wanted to get it out with the council and publicly. We just got that letter this morning, I think, and I figured we'd go public with it rather than keep it in closed session. The other thing I wanted to talk about tonight, and perhaps the council president and Councilwoman Hutchinson, since she was most recently involved with the discussions, is we got confirmation from the clerk that the Youth Sports Festival has come in to get all their permits to have the festival again, and they apparently have gotten, through no knowledge of the township, permission of to do it again at the same location through Mr. Halpern and Atlantic Realty. So we're going to have a meeting very quickly with them to let them know what the town's position will have to be this year. You recall that the resolution we passed last year, in which we wrote off, however you want to say it, money that would have paid for police and services, we put right in there that we had been led to believe that this was going to be the last youth sports festival. They're good people doing a good thing, but we've really got to take a look at how much longer the town can continue to make a big contribution. So I'm hoping we can set up a meeting in the near future to address that. Anybody else? Council President, do you have any other items you wanted to bring up before we go to public hearing?
Yes, Mayor. I would like to put a resolution up for consideration for next week to reappoint a committee member for the Housing Committee Board of Trustees. Mr. Schmidt is a resident who's been on this board for 6 years, I believe. So it's just a reappointment to confirm his next 3-year term. So it is not on the agenda, but we're going to put it on the consent agenda for next week.
Good. You're going to take care of that agenda?
I'll email it in the morning.
Okay, good. Thank you, Council President. Councilwoman Hutchison, anything?
No, I'm good.
Councilman Shadid?
Nope.
Oh,
Mi-
hang on. I was asked to, hold on.
Uh-oh,
No, I was asked to
not
read
the
something.
Luann announcement.
Not for Luann.
Okay.
Please hold.
One moment, please.
I didn't see it come through. I got a text message asking me to read something for the Board of Education.
Oh, you're with me.
Something about the bond coming up?
Yes, it was an official statement. Okay, here it is. The shared document, and then you don't have a permission to open it, like, she shared a document and then didn't give me permission to open it. So hang on.
Sounds like married life.
Yeah, I clicked on that, and it says, you need permission. So I'm going to do the same thing.
So in short, the Board of Education is going out for referendum to pass a bond issue that, if passed, will not be directly paid at this time by the taxpayers. So they will be making that case. We've invited them to come to council meeting and give it to us. I know that I had the pleasure of meeting with the superintendent and the president of the board, and they make a good case for it. So I know I'll be supporting, but they'll be coming to the council and around town. And anything any council member wants to do, we can do that. Why don't we go to Mr. Nastis while you look for that? Oh, that's right. Do I have to? Lisa? I had left
I'll
you
be
out, I'm
quick.
sorry.
Okay. Item number 1 is a New Jersey State Fireman's application for Fire Company number 3. All paperwork is in order. And item number 2 and 3 are approval of minutes from a workshop meeting of January 27th, 2025, and a regular meeting of February 3rd, 2025. Are there any revisions or corrections? And that is all I have this evening.
Thank you, ma'am.
Mayor, can I just say one more thing?
You certainly can. Grab a mic.
So I just want to, really, this is for the residents of North Brunswick. You know, we got a slew of storms coming up. Just want to make sure that we're following the ordinances, getting the vehicles off the roads. We had quite a few on Saturday night, and we were not able to properly plow those roads. And we went back today and cleaned up as folks went to work. So obviously, in those ordinances also is you have to clean your sidewalks within 24 hours. So just want to reiterate those ordinances, you know, when we have these issues with the snow.
And please, don't get mad with the police or with Public Works, when you get a ticket if you don't move your car, if we have a serious storm that requires it. The council a few years ago debated back and forth how we were going to handle this. We had several public meetings, and it's a serious ordinance. We live in a town, we're in a lot of sections, the streets are not that wide. Our firemen, our first aid rescue, our police, emergencies happen whether there's snow or not. They've got to be able to get through. And if you want your street cleared, you've got to get your car off the street and into one of the areas that's designated for the cars to be taken. And if you're older, like I am, or if you have problems, you can't move it, or some issue, call the mayor's office, call the business administrator's office, your local councilman if you know them or friends with them, and we will make sure that we do anything we can to help you move your car, get it off the street. But if these storms look serious like people are talking, we do need to have clear streets.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Blake.
you.
I'm good. I found it.
Good.
Okay, sorry about that. The North Brunswick Township School District is excited to announce that it has a unique opportunity to present a bond referendum to the North Brunswick Township residents to invest in much-needed infrastructure in our schools at zero cost to the taxpayer. These projects are also eligible for 40% facilities funding by the New Jersey Department of Education. The North Brunswick Township Schools Bond Referendum will take place on March 11th, 2025, from 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. It includes $63.79 million in improvements to our district's schools with zero tax increase to our taxpayers. The ballot will have 2 questions, but question 2 can only pass if question 1 passes. The first question will be for $52.5 million and focuses on vital HVAC, heating, and cooling work on all buildings except the new middle school. Building envelope repairs to the brickwork at both MBTHS and Linwood to keep our buildings safe, and on the upgrade of bathrooms to ensure that they are ADA or handicap compliant, which they currently are not. Question 2 is for $11.2 million and can only pass if the first question passes. Question 2 focuses on replacing outdated windows and doors and locks throughout the facility, improving security, energy, efficiency, and safety. Just as in any election, voters can vote by mail or in person. Polls will be open from 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. on March 11, 2025. Mail-in ballot applications and voter registration information is available on our Middlesex County website. For more information, including project details, frequently asked questions, informational presentations, and videos, can be found on the district website, which is nbtschools.org. Thank you.
Thank you, Council President. Mr. Nastas.
You sure?
Finally, I'm sorry.
Well, the first question is, the young man that asked about the sidewalks and road. Who do you call?
The
Police
sidewalks and
department,
road.
code enforcement, or
The
you?
tickets are going to be issued by the police department.
Not for the sidewalks.
Oh,
Not for code enforcement. Code enforcement.
and so code enforcement and the police department will be responsible for
So you call
issuing-
either one, right?
If you see somebody that's not cleared their street or their sidewalk, call code enforcement, call Ms. Larkin, because it's going to be all hands on deck to make sure that those are cleared, especially if there's,
All right, well, I was asked to ask that question, so I asked it.
I would call, you may have to call the police firm because we're talking about a situation where the township's not going to be, call the non-emergency number, but the township may not be open if
Will
we're in the
will the
midst of the
police be
storm.
patrolling the areas?
Yes. I mean, they're not going to be.
Yes, he didn't say
Oh,
anything.
yeah, well, no, I mean,
Sidewalks, but-
they're not going to be, they're going to be busy, so they're not going to be going around trying to see,
Let
oh,
me just say something. So when we're out doing our plow operation, we will contact the PD and let them know if there's vehicles on these snow emergency routes. they're always responsive.
Well, it's no emergency, I understand, but what about the neighborhoods? Who do you call?
Well, if there's cars in the road and the plows can't get by, the police department will go out there. If it's sidewalks, call code enforcement.
All right.
And they can take that up the following day. It doesn't have to be, it's not a.
Good enough, that answers the question. My question, Mac, is an old one. What's the status of George's Road and
George's Road.
Is that Kowalski?
Yeah,
So, I have to check, but, there was.
Chief, can you
Yeah.
just make sure we get the microphone?
Pin one on me.
and Cousins Lane would be the other one?
Okay, so as far as George's Road goes, I personally had a conversation with that individual on Friday over the phone, and he assured me that he was going to come in today. I advised him that there was a warrant for his arrest, and he said that he would come in today. I didn't have time, but I have to check with the township, the court clerk, to see if he came in and paid that bail.
How long is it going to take to get this situation resolved? You have any idea?
We don't, really.
But it all depends. If he came in today, it's resolved. If he didn't, then the next time we see him, he'll be arrested.
Well, wait, the court his bail will be resolved if he came in today.
Right.
But what the judge will order him to do when he is in court, we don't have control over, although we hope the judge will make an order that will motivate him to have it repaired or brought up to the code.
Well, the place
Quickly.
currently has a car in what was once the garage with other half of the garage on it, and he's got a truck that's there and a lot of garbage in the backyard. Now, Bifocal was supposed to come in and clean it all up, but somehow he got sideswiped, and the owner was supposed to do it, and that didn't get done. This has been going on for 12 years now. It shouldn't take 12 years. The building has holes in the roof. Come on.
Is there anything new to report on that end? It's still in court?
I've been working with the police in the past week to execute the bench warrant.
Okay. Has Ron taken any separate action, or he hasn't taken any other civil action other than going through the court, right?
Correct.
We agree 12 years is a long time, but we're moving as quickly as we can on it at this point, sir.
Maybe we have to call Mr. Hawk.
Pardon?
The other thing I was going to ask about is, when I asked about how code enforcement works, I did get a schedule listing the responsibilities. However, I didn't get any idea how it works. I understand verbal warnings and formal violations. That's all well and good, but
This is how it works. I don't know what he wants.
So, Mr. Ritz pointed out I think it's the same form, when property maintenance complaints, when they're received, are entered and managed through a software system, so we put it in the computers. Complaints most often referred by neighbors are received by phone calls. They're referred by the mayor's office, where many people call Ms. Larkin, where they're self-identified by code enforcement. A code enforcement officer is assigned to manage the complaint. If he's already had prior contact there and it's been successful, we'll use the same one, the same officer. If we need somebody with particular experience or skills, that's how that person will be assigned. And, of course, if they're going on vacation or something like that, the availability makes a big difference. Then, it's that three-step, we've talked about it in the past. Usually, unless there's a danger to life or limb, it's a verbal warning first, and they tell them, you got so many days to get this taken care of, or we're going to write you up. Then they write them up.
hold it. You're going to give them a verbal warning.
Yes, sir.
Now, the officer that gives the verbal warning, when does he come back to check?
I think
And how does he know the time frame from when he gave the verbal warning until when it's supposed to be completed?
I think within a framework, he's got discretion. Can he go up to 30 days or?
Well, if he forgets, what happens? Is it computerized or? is
Yeah,
it
he
just-
comes back and puts it in, once it's in the computer, it is followed as a case. So he will come back and make case notes on what the interaction was, the person who he saw, and what the person was told. And there can be a tickler that, that'll say, okay, this is Friday, and next Thursday is the expiration of the day that you gave this.
Why not just give him a summons when you see the violation, tell him he's got X amount of days to rectify it, and go back, and if it's rectified, cancel the summons. If it's not rectified, tell him he's got a court date.
Couple of things, technically. No quorum?
Do we have to wait?
Give us just a minute, okay? We have to wait for Ms. Hutchinson to get back to continue our meeting.
Even for public session, huh?
Just a new town attorney?
I think we can keep going. Well, Sapna, we won't take any action.
Okay. I'm sure she'll be quick.
Do you want to squeeze my hand?
I forgot where I was.
He's suggesting we just write summonses first and then void
So,
them later.
so the code, in some circumstances, our town code absolutely requires that you give a verbal warning before you write a summons,
A written warning.
a verbal before a written.
Right.
And then you have to give a written warning before you issue the written summons. That's in our code, which the council can change to a large degree. And we could take it up and look at it and decide to change it. In other circumstances, it is discretionary, whether the code enforcement officer decides they want to write a warning, or they could go right to a summons. Usually, if they don't feel the resident's jerking them around and is being honest and is making a good faith effort, they don't write them up right away. But you're right, there does come a point in time where you should not extend beyond a certain degree of patience.
Well, in November, I brought Beverly Street to code enforcement's attention. I told Mr. Ritz about it, and he asked me what violations. I said, just go down the street and look at them. That was in November. January, a code enforcement officer was there, and he saw, I don't know, 4 to 6 buildings, and now they're in the process. But I don't know how long it's going to take for them to fix the violations. That's the part that, a verbal warning is what, 1 week? Written warning is 2 weeks. That's 3 weeks altogether. And then you got the court case, which is another month.
Yeah, a verbal warning is probably not less than 10 days, or not less than 10 days, probably, right? Or is it?
Again, Mayor, it depends what it is. In most cases, if the officer stops about somebody not cutting their grass and they say, I'm going to cut it this weekend, the officer will go back within 5 days or 7 days just to confirm that the grass was cut. So not all violations are equal. If it's somebody who needs to get rid of a vehicle, that's typically more challenging for the homeowner, and so they might be given more time. But the answer, Mr. Ness, is to simply check with the officer. You're engaged with this particular code enforcement officer. You called and spoke to him on Thursday. You asked him about some of these, and he told you what he was doing about them. They each assign their own compliance dates. They each determine when they're writing. They each determine when they're writing summonses. I mean, they operate independently. I'm not following specifically every item, just the way the chief isn't aware to how many officers are writing so many traffic tickets. They're all out doing their job. So if somebody wants to know, if a resident makes a complaint about a property and they want to know the outcome of the status, all they have to do is email and call, and I'll have the assigned inspector contact them and update them as to what's happening.
Well, is there an inspector assigned to a certain area in town?
No, we've answered this many, many times.
Right, that's confirmation. So
Yeah.
you have 3 inspectors, and you don't know who's going to be handling what, correct?
Well, I think,
You call it in, I'll call it in to you.
Yeah.
I don't know who you're going to give it to.
correct.
All right, so how do I find out, or do they call me?
Well, if you call me back and you ask about it, I'll have whoever was assigned.
Oh, here's the voice of the township.
If you call or email or call me and ask about it, whoever the assigned inspector is, I'll have them contact you. I'll have them call you.
All right, well, the other question is, I know the police department assigns officers for certain areas to supervise or check areas. Does code enforcement do the same?
No, we've answered this many, many
Why
times.
don't they do the same? I have turned in how many code violations to you? How many did I turn in?
A lot,
A lot.
a lot.
And they're all in the same area. Now, if code enforcement is going out and supervising or checking, I wouldn't be calling them in. That's why I'm asking, is there some code enforcement officer that has a certain section of town for this week and a different section for next week? So people don't, because people call in and they don't get any response, and
But we're not organized that way.
well,
We could organize that way, but it's not the way that code enforcement generally, at least in Middlesex County and otherwise, are organized. Our officers do spend amounts of time out on the road looking for violations. And I would guess, though I have no proof, that they spend a significant part of time in your part of town as a result of your efforts to make us aware that there are violations up there.
it's the police department.
No. Our code enforcement officers are out on the road. No one is assigned, when they come in the morning, no one is assigned, you go to Burdine's Corner, that's your job, or maybe they are for that day. But we don't have somebody who, over a longer period, is the Burdine's Corner guy or the Route 130 guy, or,
Well-
we don't have that.
I'm willing to meet with you privately, Mr. Nafsis, to go over this. And the only other comment that I'll make about it is that for as many, and I've documented this to the governing body many times, for as many code violations that we issue each year in summonses, the complaints that you make represent a small percentage of what we violate every year. You don't even represent 10% of the violations that we issue because we're doing the entire town. I understand that you're interested in Burdine's Corner, but we're in every neighborhood and every street in the town responding to complaints. We issue hundreds of violations every year. Only a small percentage of them are associated with your complaints. We also issue dozens of summonses every year, and a very small percentage of them are associated with your complaints. There are other properties that we're enforcing property maintenance again all over town. And I'm happy to meet with you and show you that and go over that with you.
And there are a good number of people in town who get violated, who feel that we're picking on them. And we certainly try not to be picking on anybody, but if there's a violation, we do try. And Ms. Larkin handles quite a number of those complaints every year.
Well, just based on my limited knowledge of the people I talk to, you got to go to church. You meet a lot of people in church. They don't give you their name, but they issue situations. Oh, I called it in, and nothing happened, this, that, and the other thing. You know, that's why I asked, is there a certain, like the police department has a certain section of town that car A.
Right, like walking the beat. It's,
You're right.
All I can do is ask them to be specific rather than talk in generalities, Mr. Nessus.
Well,
If they
what-
want to know about us, all they have to do is call. All they have to do is email.
Well,
And they can be anonymous. All they have,
Based on the limited knowledge that I have of these people that talk to me, they call and they don't get any results. I don't know who they are, and I don't know what they're complaining.
I don't know who they are either, but I don't get that many calls that are asking.
I don't know whether they call you or just call the department and talk to somebody. I don't know.
Okay, they should be forwarded to me, but I'm happy to answer questions about any specific property.
thank you, Mr. Nassis. We appreciate it. That's all the time for
Catch
our
up on the
workshop.
rest of it later.
Okay, well, is there a motion to close the
So moved.
public hearing?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Is there a motion to adjourn this evening?
So moved.
Second.
Wait,
Oh.
we have, is that this meeting or is it a separate meeting?
We have a consent agenda.
The consent agenda.
Yeah, that
Oh,
has-
okay, thank you.
There's
And we have a quorum for that.
Sorry.
No, I'm glad it's on here. I'm glad you said something. Is there
Oh, we should have
a motion to approve consent agenda item A?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Shadid?
Yes.
Ms. Hutchinson?
Yes.
Mr. Mehta? Ms. Guadagnino?
Yes.
Now, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Everybody have a great night.